Good evening and welcome to the program. Tonight we are engaged in a conversation with Wilson Santos, the youth pastor of Congregation Lion of Judah. Wilson works with Gen Z from middle school to high school, and he has a very unique perspective on how parents, pastors, and others can minister to this unique group. Are you ready? Let's get into it. So Wilson, thank you so much for coming on the program. So last week I had a conversation with a group that was here at Lion of Judah from Every Heart Movement. I don't know if you remember, them on Sunday.
Yeah.
But I was talking with them about a topic that we've been just considering in the last few segments, and that is millennials and Gen Zs. And so the group that was here, I talked to a couple of them. They're sort of the older Gen Zs, in their 20s, and they're on fire for God and out evangelizing. But you're the youth pastor here at Lion of Judah, and you work with primarily middle schoolers to high schoolers.
Yeah.
And so talk to us a little bit about what your experience has been working with that particular group. One of the things that we've been discussing about Gen Zs is kind of their need to feel authentic community and to be poured into from like older generations. But I really want to hear from you kind of like what you're seeing on the ground with these young people.
Yes, also like you said, so I work with here at Lion of Judah with middle schoolers and high schoolers. What am I seeing? I'm seeing a lot of energy, especially when with the sixth graders.
Right.
So 6 through 8, definitely when they're 8th grade, I almost think of them almost like the little older, but with the younger students, like when they're like in 6th grade, they bring a lot of energy. So there's a lot of you got to spend a lot of time with them, a lot of redirecting. With the older generation is more like sometimes they want to have like more in-depth conversation. They want to know the why. That's kind of the thing. Like they just ask a lot of great questions around like their Christianity, and they're trying to play out their faith. So what I see a big range between like 6th and 12th grade, but they're all in different stages. But what I am seeing like a generation that wants to like be more involved with their faith. At least that's my perspective on it.
Yeah.
It just has to do more with the deliverables when it's coming to like explaining the why. It's not more of like, oh, do this because I'm saying to do this. It's more like explaining like our faith and having those more conversations with them.
Yeah. And I think, that's similar to what Alyssa Tachi of Antioch Church had mentioned, which was they want to have those deep conversations around topics and sort of wrestle with particular things that they're struggling with. And so it sounds like that's kind of what you're seeing for this generation. And what kinds of things are they struggling with?
I mean, the things that I see they're struggling with most right now, like and we probably heard this on Sunday, it was more like technology is one that they struggle with a lot. I see young people struggling with technology. Having access to it all the time. They literally could have access to like any questions. They could Google something, they could YouTube something. I mean, think about it these days. If you want to learn how to like, I don't know, change a filter, the air filter in your car, you could literally Google that. But I think that also could become a struggle because you're going through thinking that everything is accessible so fast, and then you're not allowed to process things in life. Because everything is like, I call it more like a microwave society. So the kids get into that area, like they think, oh, I could get something like instant gratification. While like Christianity is like the opposite. It's more like working on self. You get to build a little bit at a time, and you are allowed to, even though we're striving to be better and we're following Christ, but we also are going to struggle with some areas of our lives. So some things are things that you're gonna have to work on slowly on. So it's not something you could YouTube. So I think that's like what they struggle with. They struggle with like this whole thing of like wanting things at a very fast rate. And then because that's the society they live in, when they run into like a lot of I want to say obstacles, or they go into like some life challenges, they think that it could be a fast solution when sometimes it's not. It's like the process of being a Christian, like the prayer, the fasting, the reading, allowing God to talk to you. So it's like you have like two competing worldviews. So that's what I see a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a pastor, right, and you have this generation that's sort of like microwave, and they want things fast, and they think that the answers to everything can be found on the web. And so how do you, on a practical level, like strategize and build, your ministry around meeting the needs, or maybe even like sort of helping them to become students of process, right? That things are a process, right? Community is a process. Changing your thinking patterns are a process. It's not fast, right? It takes time.
Yeah.
So how are you thinking through those issues of how to approach them?
For me, like working with youth in general, I try to give them spaces where they're not, I'm not saying they're not distracted, because I don't think they could easily get distracted sometimes, but taking away the things that are distracting them. So like in a very practical, very simple thing that we do on Fridays is that, I collect cell phones, right? So I always tell them like, you had a busy week, and I don't do it like I'm more like punitive.
Right.
That's kind of my thing. I always tell people like, I don't try to weaponize it as like, oh, we're taking your cell phone because, like it's the worst thing ever. But I just let them know like, you've had a long week, you've been in school, you've been doing homework, you're kind of going 100 miles an hour, you're trying to manage all these relationships. Why not this time? Why not take like these 2 hours or 2.5 hours that we're gonna be together on a Friday and just connect? And I think that allows them to like, let the brain slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've also seen other kids like, because I've also used that little small practice to other things that I've done with youth at church. Like if I've done a camping trip, I take away their phones. We did a retreat, I take away their phones. And what I noticed lately is like that they've been asking me to take away their phones. So they're like, oh no, like it was funny. One of the kids recently was like, on Sunday when he saw me, he's like, oh, when are we gonna do like a trip or like a camping trip? Like I need some alone time. Like I need to get away from like, from the city. Like I need to take away my phone. Yeah. So that's kind of cool that they could kind of see like, cause they enjoy it when you, so that's like on a practical level, like taking certain things away.
Yeah, so you're saying, taking away their phones, or giving them more opportunity to be present and in the moment, with whatever activity you have, where does community building come in? Like sort of building relationships with one another.
Yeah.
What are some of those things? And the trips, how frequently are they, or is a lot of the community building happening on Fridays?
It's more like so like this every year is different. Like we have like a summer program that sometimes I think I overload myself a little bit. When we do like the camping trips, we try to do a retreat, we try to do some type of outings. But most of the community building is on Friday. Okay. So it's more about being intentional on Fridays. And then like I always tell people, I'm very blessed that I have a really good team around me. Yeah. And it's also try to engage the youth to do like, to them to feel that it's their space and that they also have a voice. So, and then also them seeing like the process of how things work. So a quick example, like Juan, who leads worship, and Emily, his wife. Yeah. So on Fridays they started a worship team. So I remember that worship team like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, where like some of the kids were like in 6th grade, could barely play the piano, or they could barely play the drums. Yeah. But now you see them like Malcolm, that he's one of the youth that actually prayed last Sunday at church. Like he's played the drum on Sundays. Now he's a junior going into senior year. He's played on Wednesdays. Yeah. So some of the kids now they've been able to like connect with other ministries in the church. So again, saying that is like on Friday is allowing them to find like ways where they can see how like they connect to the larger body of Christ. I don't try to say more like the functions of it, because people could think like, oh no, you're trying to like simulate like a church, right? Like, oh no, like you need a projection or you need somebody to do an opening. I just look at it as like it's more building community. So I would say like on Fridays, like the young people, I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
Like I barely know how to turn on a mic, even if I do an announcement on a Sunday. So like on Fridays, the youth they're running projection.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm making a Bible reference, they have it up behind me, and I don't even know. They know how to do all these things. They know how to, they know how to do the soundboard. They know how to set up the mics, and I see their chat for the worship team. Like the kids are picking their songs.
Yeah.
They have an app where they could send like I don't know. I think it's whatever they have to read the notes or whatever. They have an app, and they're like, oh, they uploaded that to that.
Yeah.
But building community too. I think also one last thing to like wrap it up is the piece of like the small groups. It goes a long way when we do small groups. So we try to get them in a space where they could spend more time with each other, like age appropriate.
Yeah.
Like
and this happens on Fridays.
on Fridays.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like we've tried so many different things for so long that we kind of have like a way that I think that works for us. Like we usually like we know that we want to break away like the school cut type of setting, because and I always got to check myself at the door. That's one thing I had to learn how on my own to pray. Like, okay, I'm not working at school, I'm not at the court, I'm not doing other things. I'm not bringing like that disciplinary piece. Like, how do I build community? So like, I know that when they get there, I gotta let them get the energy out. They're gonna want to. I let them go to different schools. Like, even though we're located in Boston, here in Roxbury, I'm like, I have kids that come as far as Otterboro, Norfolk, Chelsea. So I have kids that come up from like everywhere to come here, and they come from private school, public school, charter schools, and some of them they don't go to school together, so they're already used to seeing each other on Fridays. So the first thing that we do is that we let them socialize, like hang out, say hi to each other. And after they do that, like I said, we collect the phones. We try to do we do a circle time as a whole group, just so everybody could check in, like how was your week, thumbs up, thumbs down. And we do like worship, usually like 3 songs. We try to do a small reflection that we all take turns. Like all the leaders, I try to make sure that hopefully everybody gets a turn to like kind of bring like a word on a Friday. And then whatever the topic is, we break up into small groups.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that's been different lately that I think the kids have been enjoying it too is they're the ones that are setting up the games. So the biggest thing is it's been like Kahoot, Bible trivia, we did Bible Jeopardy. So it gets very competitive.
Right.
Yeah, we did one with the parents, the last one.
Right.
So it was kind of like, it was good seeing like it was the battle, because you see it like live. Yeah, so that's one of the things that we do a lot.
Now talk to me about mental health.
Yeah.
Within this generation, because it's been a topic, in the news. There's a lot of articles in newspapers about it, right? And the link with phones or smartphones and mental health issues. Are you seeing that with your particular, youth group, or, are those conversations that you're having as part of small groups? Are you intentionally kind of addressing some of the things that they're having to deal with out in the world?
Yeah, we talk about like different issues like around like, even though we try to be very like Bible centered, but we also bring topics that they want to talk about too. But I do see it. I mean, I see it everywhere. I think that I could see it inside of church. I see it outside of church. The link of like the mental health. My whole thing, and this is like the way that I see it, is a lot of kids they get isolated. They see identity through their phone. They're, like I said, they're constantly on social media, or they're looking at stuff where they're comparing themselves to other people. And I always tell them, like, when people post things on social media, they're just posting like a highlight of their life. It's like nobody's posting like hey, I had a bad day. It's like, look at this great vacation I'm at, look at this great picture, I'm at this game, I don't know, I bought a pair of sneakers, or like I went on this vacation. So it's also letting them know that that's not reality. What I also see, like, because kids have so much access to just not social media, but the internet or playing video games, they could easily get into that place where they get isolated. And I do see it sometimes in youth group with some of the youth. I see some of them that they could have struggles like socializing. because they're so used to like, either being on the headphones or like just doing their own thing, that it's like, okay, now I'm with all these kids that I don't know. I don't go to school with them. I don't want to be involved. Or I want to sit in this little corner. So I think that's why I try to be intentional. Going back to like taking away the phones, trying to engage them, trying to make sure like that they go into the small groups, because then they force them to meet other kids that are the same age. So that kind of helps out. But yeah, you do see it. So one recommendation I always tell parents, like get kids outdoors. I'm a big outdoors person, and I'm a firm believer of that. People always say, "Oh, I'm not an outdoors person." I always say that all of us are outdoors people. You don't have to be a hiker or a backpacker. You don't have to be in the wilderness for like 10 days. But I think that you could go and like just go out. Some kids that were in the youth group, now that they're older, I think they're 23 or something, like they're doing like urban hiking. I'm like, wow, this is great. They're just hiking through the city. They're like, oh, I guess you could do that now. So that's great. But I think about getting outdoors and getting the body moving. I think it's crucial, especially for young people.
Now, tell me, how long have you been doing youth ministry specifically?
For me, it's been kind of weird because I feel like I've never been able to shake it off. It's like when you're always kind of saying like, you have an idea when it comes to your career, but then God has a different plan for you. I've always been stuck within that realm. Like I was lucky enough that a lot of people know my story. Like I came to the church when I was in Cambridge, I was 14. And then when I was in part of the youth group, I got involved like volunteering. I think I was there for a while. Then like when I was like 17, 18, I was volunteering at a DYS, a locker facility, with one of the youth leaders. We used to go to the DYS that's in Harvard Street in Dorchester, and we used to come and like bring a Bible study to kids that were in lockup. And then I stayed involved there. I remember I met Father Joe. He was a priest that was kind of like in charge like of the spiritual piece at that particular DYS locker facility. And he told me, oh, when you're 18, you should come and work here. So then when I turned 18, I started working there. Like I started picking up like weekend shifts. And I was like, oh, what am I doing here? And then I went to when I went to college, I've always stayed connected. Like I used to always come on the weekends and go to church at least a couple times a month. So it kept me like at a very close range to Line of Judah. And then right from when I graduated, I started working at Job Corps. That is working with like, with that age of like 18 to like, or 16 technically to like 24. Kids that are doing trades. I worked at the one in Shriver. That's up like Route 2 near Fishburg. I did that. And then from there, I thought I majored in criminal justice, and I thought I wanted to be something in law enforcement, but God had another story. Then I started working for DSS as DCF now, and I got stuck with the adolescent unit doing investigations. I couldn't shake it off.
So God has always been
there, and then right from there, right to Boston Public Schools, that I've been there for like 17 years now. So, but I've always been like, and then doing youth ministry, I've always volunteered with every youth pastor that's been here. Like from like when Mr. Preto was here, he was a youth pastor here, to Omar Soto, that was an associate pastor that ran the youth group, to another youth pastor, like I think when Sarah was here, like I was also working with her. Then I took a little break. Then Sony told me to come help out at Awana. And then I became, the youth pastor of the church. So it's been fun for me. I just say like, I'm just lucky that I get to like, my world is revolved around working with young people. That makes it easy.
And part of the reason I wanted to ask you that question is since you have been working with youth or young people for such a long time, how has your approach, right, way back when, maybe in the beginning, if you can think about, how you worked with the youth, to your approach now, and is it harder? Is it different? Is it easier now? What are the things that maybe have changed over time?
I think just patience. I think early on you think you have certain things that like I want things this way. You're going 100 miles an hour. You could visualize it. You kind of see like, hey God, I want to get here. And then you're telling God, no, like I know what I got this. And then the older you get, you realize like, the pressure's off of you, and you rely more on God. And so that's what I've seen. So I went from being more like, I get because of my background of like doing more like stuff around like discipline and being involved in the court system. Sometimes like the side of me people don't see a lot. Like I tend to be like very, like I could be a little bit rough at times. And I don't know, somebody gave me a compliment, so I've been more gentle now in the last couple of years in my faith with the Lord. But I say that now, what God has told me is more like you were where they were at, right? Even I think they have it tougher than I've had it. Like I won't compare generation because I think every generation has the things that they struggle with. Yeah. But I'm like, God is like, but you were there, like you were doing this at this age, and you were not where you're at now, and I was able to guide you. Yeah. So for me, like now is more like love on the kids, pray with them, let them know that you love them, that you're praying for them, speak truth, and then modeling. I think that's the biggest thing. And then like Roberto one time told me, our senior pastor here for a long time, he just told me, he's like, give the kids, like his analogy was give them steak and potatoes. He told me that on a Sunday. I'm like, steak and potatoes. He was like don't overthink it. Like the kids need to know the Word of God. And one of the biggest challenges he gave me, he was like, the youth group will be a reflection of you. Yeah. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, well, if you're not praying, if you're not fasting, if you're not searching for God, like how you think how the kid's gonna see that? Yeah. And I've seen that through a lot of areas of my life, I think, and through a lot of people that minister in my life. Yeah. And it's true, like you never like remember like something very specific about a person. I mean, you could remember a couple of sayings, but when I think about people that have impacted me in my life, it's been more like me observing them and their actions and their everyday, like the way that they process things. That's what I remember. Like I can't pinpoint and say like, on this day you gave me this, but just by observing them. And I think like that's one of the good advice that they gave me was like, focus on the Lord, make sure that your spiritual life is in a good place, and then give the kids like, don't water down Christianity, like meat and potatoes. Yeah. But going back to the original question is more like that. What's different for me now is I've taken the pressure off. I think with me is more like I want to give the kids like this space where they could be more connected with the Lord, and knowing that I don't change anybody. It's Him. So I'm like, so no pressure. That's what happens to get a little older. You know, we're close to an age, so you're like,
we tend to relax as we get older,
and you get to enjoy it. Yeah. Because I see it. Like I seen like kids now that they're in college, and when people are thinking like, oh, the generation's not doing good, this and that. Like there's a young man like that freshman year in college right now. Like he started a men's group at his university, and then he goes to our church. And he has like 30 kids. And I'm like, okay. And then I see like, the young lady who's going to another school, Holy Cross, that, through her faith, she got almost a full ride, and she's like out there, she's still in her faith. So I see the kids that are still connected in their faith, but then also see other kids that are struggling in their faith a little bit. But I could say, wait a second, like, there was a time that I struggled with my faith, or there were other people struggling in their faith, and then God still brings them back because the seed is planted there. And that's what we have to do. We have to give kids access constantly. I think I saw that somewhere, like Marina might have sent it to me like 1,000 years ago on a group chat, but it talked about like the kids that are able to play out their faith longer into like their 30s and 40s and even 50s are the kids that their parents kept on exposing them to Christianity earlier on. Like they're bringing them to church, and they're not compromising with like, and not just on like the physical piece of like, not a religious act, but saying like, come to church, like that you're very in tune to what's going on in their life, like, like be in ministry, like give them opportunities to volunteer. Like I've seen parents here that street ministry, like there's one of the parents that like, she's amazing. Like she brings her daughter to street ministry, and she holds. You probably know what I'm talking about. She hosts the stuff at her house, and they're like prayer groups. And I'm like, that's. And then the interesting thing that particular child, she's the one that reads every single email that Trisha, Jonathan's wife, sends out. She knows every lesson we're on. She knows the Bible verses, and she's always here volunteering. And I'm like, that's just parent modeling.
That's really great. Now, tell me a little bit. We're in the city of Boston, and I know from coming to Lion of Judah that you had been working collaboratively with other youth leaders
Yeah.
in the city, doing citywide, I think was, some time ago. But what other opportunities are there for you to connect with other youth pastors or people working specifically with the youth to sort of, I don't know, share, right, ideas, help each other, right, in this ministry?
Yeah. So the good things about staying connected, so like Citywide was amazing. Working with Pastor Adam from Park Street, and he just started with like a prayer. He sent out he got an email. I think he just started Googling people or got on the internet, sent a random email. Let's all get together to pray. And then that turned into Citywide, that we did like a good 2-year run on it.
Yeah.
And it was great because we got a lot of kids together. We got to go to other churches. Because I think that's important too, because kids need to see like that we're not just in this little circle, this little corner. There's other Christians, and that's the beautiful thing. So they were able to build friendships with other kids from other churches. That was one. And every time there's something that I get connected through, like because our church, to the glory of God, that it's people know Line of Judah. They always want to connect. It's just always been a very welcoming place for the community. I feel like every time that I've been here throughout the years, there's always something going on here. Some organization that's using the space that wants to work with you. So I get a lot of texts and emails of like, you want to do this? So like I got connected like with Gordon College one time, and I did like a 2-year program with them, like doing the outdoor stuff. And through like another organization, I did another outdoor program through, it's called My Faith. It's a program right now that's the city of Boston trying to get inner city youth pastors together. They're actually having something coming up, like a little forum that they're having, and that's another through a grant that they got. Dr. Ward she got a grant through a Lilly Foundation, $1 million, and they've been trying to like get youth leaders across the city together. So every time there's something like that, like I think it's great. I think you were here when we did what was the big concert that we went to this summer? That we actually had one here with and the Brazilian churches came.
I'm trying to remember.
It's gonna come to me. Yeah, but that was another one that we did.
My memory's not what it used to be.
Yeah, so that was mine's either. So I think that every time there's an opportunity to like to engage, it's fun. So I was, I think that's one thing that we have to do is like get. It's always good to get kids together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's all this, when I was sort of studying this particular topic, millennials and Gen Zs, you read a lot of articles, and there are some that are very pessimistic. There are some that are optimistic. And so I want to kind of get your opinion in terms of, here in the city of Boston, what you're seeing, and is what you're seeing making you more optimistic about young people, Gen Zs, coming and wanting to know the Lord? How are you seeing
I
things?
think, so I wear like, not that I wear two hats. So like when I'm working, in the school system, I could see, because I work in the public school system, I could see also like all the agenda that's getting pushed to the kids. That is almost like, it's more like an agenda, just trying to change their mindset, messing around with family dynamics and morals and values. That's a very hard thing that they have to overcome, because some of the kids are not even there. Sometimes they don't even care about, and I think these are adults that are making decisions to influence them, and they're coming with their own ideology. That's a big battle. But then the other part where I see like the side of hope is that is also, I'm seeing parents also like rising up, and I'm seeing more movement and people trying to be more proactive, because they're realizing that we have to be more proactive. We can't take that a step back anymore. And we have to be more engaging with our kids. Even if we are working like 2 to 3 jobs, we have to make sure that we're engaging the people that we're responsible under our household. So I see that part of the things that are happening like in the school system with the ideology and pushing all that stuff, that it worries me a lot. But I also see the part where it's brought people more like more awareness, and people are paying more attention.
Yeah.
So I think that's also like what God is doing in the Christian movement. I also think like that sometimes we're not called to live a passive life. So we got to make sure that we're not being passive either. And I think that, and it's hard too because, so the biggest things that I do see that worries me is like, and this is like a conversation that constantly happens, is that for some reason as parents, we think that we need to be very involved when kids are like in elementary school. And then and sometimes I think that when they're in middle school to high school, we have to draw back, right? Because supposedly we want them to be independent and stuff like that. And I'm a firm believer that you need to push more in all the way to like around 18 or even 21 or 22 because they're still developing. So you also like, you shouldn't you shouldn't take a backseat. You know, like I don't see that. And I think that I see that approach a lot with parents sometimes, that they want to take like the backseat. And I'm like, if you go get if you go get your driver's test, I don't know, if you're 17, 18, like you have the instructor right next to you. So you have to be that instructor. You still got to be in the car even if they're driving. I know that's a good analogy, but you have to be in the car while they're driving. So you could tell them like, okay, like put on your signal, like put on your seatbelt, like look at your rearview mirror, look at your side mirrors. So I think that parents still have to be very engaged. And the parents that are doing those things, even if their kids are not in private school or Christian schools, and they're still navigating the public school system, I see those kids that, because the parents are being so intentional, I see their faith is still growing. So that's one thing that I will tell parents to stay. But I am optimistic too, though, like in a sense, because like I said, I live in my own bubble. That sometimes is not a good thing, because I'm like, people like, sometimes I don't know what's going on. Like people are like, oh, have you seen what's going on the news with certain things that are happening? And I'm like, yeah, like I go to a church in Lion of Judah, and I'm in charge of this youth ministry here, and then I'm like involved with like with the families that are here, but then I'm seeing great things. I'm like, like I don't know, the building might be burning, but these kids are doing a great job on this side, and I'm having a good time seeing it. So I know the end, right? I saw this meme recently. It's the guy who plays in The Chosen, the guy who plays Jesus or something. And they're asking him, they're like, any spoiler alert for season 4? He's like, there's a book, right? That's what I like. I know how it ends. Right. I'm not saying that we're not gonna struggle, that we're not gonna go through like trials and tribulations as a church, but I'm more like, if as Christians that we focus like the Lord loves family. Jesus loves family. Like God loves family. He loves the structure of family. And sometimes I think that we could get caught up on a lot of different things. But I'm like, why did Jesus have to come to this earth through a family? Through like a mom and a dad. So he lets you know that he sees value in the structure of family, the structure of the family. So I think that we just have to pay more attention to it, to our families, and families are different. Like sometimes like I come from a blended family, so I always tell people like, don't think that it has to be like this perfect family. Like I come from a blended family, like from two parents that that came from like two other marriages, and like my dad brought 2 kids, my mom brought 2 kids, and we're 4, right? So there's still space to you to be like, this is the family God gave me. Or sometimes family could be like, a lot of us have family in the church that we're not like blood related. Like, it's like those are your family. Like they come, you have dinners with them, and your kids. Like my daughter has aunts that they're not my sisters by blood, but they just people that just poured into my daughters, and they'll pick them up and take them out, and they set up dates with them, and I'm like, okay. So we all have like that family structure that is important. It's right at the heart of God.
And I think you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right about the importance of family, and it's something that we've been talking about too in the program. But one of the things I hear you saying in some of what you've been speaking right now is that for parents, perhaps not to expect that a Friday night youth ministry or a hiking trip or something is going to be what is instructing their kids. It matters, obviously.
It matters. It's a small percentage. I think sometimes parents they'll put a big expectation. They're like, I'm gonna bring my kid to Awana. I'm gonna bring my kid to to the youth group, and this is gonna be 100% okay. But I'm like, they're gonna get exposed to the Word of God. But like even if you think about Awana, right? Like Like Sonia Bell is gonna give you a book that the kid is in, I don't know if it's in TNT or if he's in Puggles, but he has to go home.
Yeah.
He has to do all these lessons.
Right.
He has to memorize the Bible verses, right? That doesn't happen with the Awana instructor.
Right.
That should be happening with the parent at the house, right?
Yeah.
Or vice versa with us. Like, we send out an email every Friday. We were following this book. It's called Discipleship. Really good. Like, it talked about from everything from getting baptized to being a good neighbor. So we're sending out, read this book in the Bible. This is the theme on it. This is the chapter. This is the key Bible verse.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that at the house, we're a touch point, but a lot of the reinforcement has to come from home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I would say.
Yeah.
But if we tie it back into a nugget for families, to battle, and I'm not gonna say this is a cure to mental health because I'm not an expert on it.
Yeah.
But I think it's having more touch points with your kids, and I think that you have to make it a habit. One thing that you probably heard this, and Pastor Haley mentioned to you, but even this week, because we've been so busy, my wife has been doing graduation at her school. I've been going all over the place for work, and our two daughters are home, right? So we sat down. This is the menu for the week. What do you want to cook?
Yeah.
And then they get excited because it's I want to cook this dish that I found online, but I need all the recipes, right? Or you gotta cook, or walks. I probably said this thing 1,000 times, but one of the good advice that the pastor told me one time, Roberto, was it's one of his sermons that I heard recently. Again, I have it saved. There's a couple of sermons that I want to hear over and over. It's he said, go for walks with your kids.
Yeah.
He said, even if they don't want to talk to you, because when you walk with them, all you're saying to them is that they're important.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of a model in my life with my girls, especially because I'm a girl dad. I'm around ladies all the time in my house, so I gotta be intentional with everybody in my house. I think I walk with everybody. With my oldest, I bike. With my youngest, I walk, and with Suhaili, I go for walks too. So I'm always constantly walking with somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that there's just a way to say that they're important. So that's where we're going back to young people. We have to do those touch points. If they're on the video game, unplug it. Unplug it.
Right.
Even cell phones. Even if it's you don't have to start with a big battle. I'm gonna take your phone away. Even though I've done it for 6 months, but you could start by let's put our cell phone somewhere in the house, because you don't have to respond to every text right away, or you don't need to be that connected to it. One of my coworkers, interesting, it's a side note. He was telling me he hasn't been sleeping with his phone in his room, and I started doing the same thing. So I've been putting my phone in another room, and I sleep very peacefully.
Right. Yeah. No. It's a big
kids,
recommendation.
To keep the room, keep the phone out of your room.
Yeah. So sleep hygiene. It's part of the sleep hygiene thing about keeping all sort of devices away from your bedroom.
Yeah, we took away the TV. I think it's 2 years ago. Oh, God did, not me. It was God's idea. It stopped working.
Right.
And then we never replaced it. But I slept better.
Right.
Because I didn't need all that noise in the background.
Right.
So there's those things too. And going back to what young people and mental health too, I think that we gotta be very careful that we don't give kids a room where they're they could be the kids could call it ghosting or whatever, where they're where you do not see them.
Yeah.
You could be in a house and never see your kid. That's a no-no. Don't let them have they don't need to have their own. And I'm not trying to tell people how to parent their kids, but when a kid has their PlayStation in their room, they have a TV, or they have a laptop, all this technology, then it's when do they get to talk to you, right?
Right.
And then you wonder why when they're outside of that environment, they're gonna struggle to be able to talk to their peers. Because I've seen it, going back to when I do not just a campus, but when I do a retreat and I'm with the kids for 3 days, I see it the first couple of hours, everybody's fidgety. They don't know what to do. Everybody's quiet, they're trying to figure out the room. Then we'll do an icebreaker. And then you can't stop them from talking. Then it's 2, 3 in the morning, they just want to keep talking, and talking. Because then they realize, wait a second, the person in front of me, this is more fun than me being on on I don't know, like on YouTube and just strolling
They're
up and
probably
down.
detoxing those
They're
first couple of hours.
It's true.
From social media
because
and the
you
device.
could be strolling.
Yeah.
You could be there strolling the whole time.
Right,
And then
right.
but then they're having a great time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know that you work at BTA, and one of the things that they do is a freshman retreat.
Yeah.
When they take the
Yeah.
kids
Yeah.
hiking
in the White Mountains.
in the White Mountains.
Yeah.
So my daughter went this year, even though she's been backpacking with me. But she loved it. She's like, oh man, it was like 4 days. I wish it would have been a week. I'm like, what kid wants to be like backpacking or maybe not showering for like a week?
Right, right.
But it's because they enjoy it.
They're really roughing it.
Yeah, so that's a good
really
thing.
Great. So Wilson, you had tips and advice for parents.
Yeah.
I feel like you also had a lot for pastors who are working with young people. And so thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you for coming on the program. I really appreciate your wisdom and how long you have been working with young people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah.
So
It
thank
really
you.
was.
Yeah.
So I hope that you learned something. If you're a young person, I hope that you learned something about community and the importance of being together with other youth and people your age. If you're a parent, I hope that you heard Wilson and the importance of being involved with your kids, that, right, you need to be intentional about spending time with them. So there was a lot that he said for everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can't wait to see you next time.